Hey, everybody.
I'm muted because there's crazy construction, so I'll keep it like that unless spoken to.
No worries. I'm always, on Fridays, I'm sort of hiding because there's leaf blowers that come out these days. So I have to apologize in advance. I might have to mute as well. How is everyone?
You Southerners.
I know. It's so warm.
The idea of leaves.
I know. No. Oh
yeah,
my God.
Leaf blowers. What about snow blowers?
Okay,
Exactly.
I'm going to turn the camera around. Look at the flowers outside my
Oh my God.
Oh no. Southern California, I tell you. It's just,
You're gonna make me do it.
I mean, I literally just came back from a few days in Italy, and it's like last night I was in northern Italy. It was like kind of cool. This morning I was in Frankfurt. It was literally freezing.
You're kidding.
I don't think you can see out my window, though, can you?
Oh, yes, we can.
I don't know.
It's a winter wonderland. Amazing.
How much do you have on the ground, Ava?
Here. Actually, not that much. It's only, let's see, I don't know if you can see my deck. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Yeah.
Only a couple feet, probably. So, that's not that much. It was a lot more than this last year by this point. So it's been a really mild February, actually.
Yeah.
The idea of leaves does seem very far away. Out on the lake, you probably couldn't see, but there's ice fishing huts out there too. There's right outside.
Oh my
gosh. A bunch of people.
It's a different world.
Anyway, I know it's funny how we can all talk to each other and live in these completely different places.
I know, the miracle of technology. Okay. Oh, we've got such a nice crowd today. Awesome. So I see that Dr. Wordperson is here with us. So, more people are joining. Hang on. Jonathan is here. Okay. So today we are having a hangout to review the channel from Dr. Wordperson. And then in the second part of our meeting, we're going to be discussing video title best practices. So before we get started, let me introduce our special guest, Christina, Dr. Wordperson. Thank you so much for being willing to review your channel with us today. And I will also keep an eye on the chat as well. Everyone, if you would like to drop your name or your channel in the chat so everyone knows who you are, that would be great. So let me go back to our presentation. And I'd like everyone to take a glance at this information first. This is what you see when you first visit Dr. Wordperson's channel. And I just wanted you to take a few minutes and think about what are your first impressions. What sort of channel do you think you've just come across? And what are the first few words that jump to mind? I'd love it if people would unmute and just, throw out some terms. What do you think about when you see this?
A couple of things probably. I like the colors, but the banner is quite plain, I would say. And the words are fine. It's a word channel, have words. That's good. But I don't think it needs the word channel tagline.
So channel tagline. Sorry, that very part.
Okay, is that what I'm?
Yeah, the top blue part. That's just from our presentation.
Oh, I thought that was her banner. Yeah, I thought that was her banner, and I was like, I don't think that's a good banner.
So the banner starts right where it says Dr. Wordperson, and you can see.
Oh, okay. The little drippy things.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Like a pattern. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sorry, my bad.
Oh no, not at all. Not at all. Yeah. Okay, so we mentioned the colors. The color, like the palette, is really lovely. Like the first thing that really jumps out at me when I see the thumbnails is that those colors that you've chosen for the background are so beautiful. And that, it looks like it's achieved just with a lighting effect. And so that's very impressive, what you can do with just a very small amount of just manipulating your environment a little bit can really have a great effect. And I love that amounts to a very recognizable thing with your thumbnails, this lighting effect. Anyone else? What else are your impressions about this first look at the channel?
I really like the patches, like the colored patches behind the words on the thumbnails. I think some of them need to be shifted because they're covered by the timestamp, but I know a lot of us struggle with that. But yeah, I do really like those pastel colors. But I guess as I went onto the actual channel and started scrolling through more of the thumbnails,
Yes.
and it looks like you've got sort of a few main colors that you're using as the shadow behind the words. Are those to try to help delineate videos into specific groups or like playlists, or are they just sort of whatever color you felt like, I guess, Christina?
And Christina, feel free to just write into the chat if your mic isn't working. Okay, Christina says, no, the colors are just chosen to be aesthetically pleasing with the background. I think I would agree with Cheryl that I think the banners are great. They're so recognizable, but maybe just pick one, your favorite color, just so it's that much more recognizable. Okay, Dr. Wordperson, Christina says, I've thought about doing that, but that would be boring. I've been having a lot of fun with the different colors. Okay, I totally get that. Christina also says, thanks for the info about the timestamp. Yeah, I agree with Cheryl. This is something a lot of us struggle with. I wonder if at WeCreateEdu, we might want to make a couple of templates for people just to sort of help remind us that, okay, this is about how big we need the type to be before we can see it, or this is where you really shouldn't put any information because there's a timestamp there. Yeah. What about this tagline? And this is the tagline that Christina mentioned to me in the survey before we got started here. The channel tagline that she's going for is fun with linguistics and ancient languages. And so what I'd like us to next think about when we look at the homepage, is that your first impression? Is there anything else that maybe we should, or maybe Christina should be doing so that is your first impression?
I think the linguistics and words is fairly well conveyed by the banner.
Mm-hmm.
And the thumbnails bring, sort of it suggests the fun with the expressions and maybe there's a way of getting more of that into the banner, more of the sort of playfulness, because it's not a very playful banner, I would say.
Oh, I totally agree. I think,
Right?
I think, yeah, the thumbnails really, and Christina, it's especially your expressions. These are just the most wonderful photos. It's subtle, but your personality immediately comes through. Like, I know I'm not in for a stodgy lecture. You just look so cheerful and like you have a secret, like something fun to tell me. Yeah.
And to be, link it in that way as well. Like take a recording of you saying Dr. Word Person.
Yeah. I think that would be really fun. Yeah. Let's also look at the logo for the channel. And here it looks like it's one of your samples or, the typical type of photos from your thumbnails and from your videos. What's the immediate reaction to the logo for the channel?
Personally, I think it's probably a little bit small, the face in it. That's my initial reaction. I actually have the same with the thumbnails, that the face is maybe not hitting the rule of thirds quite. I think you could enlarge the face a little bit.
Yeah, good point. And especially, we've heard this from YouTube that people really react to being able to see your eyes, like your eyes with some interesting expression. And so I think maybe, we could even, Christina, you could even double the size of your picture. And I think that would increase the impact, especially because what's really coming across is your fun expression. Like you're sort of, I'm so interested in this and I have something to tell you. Like that really comes across in the thumbnails.
Yeah, I mean, the ones to look at would be the Vlogbrothers, right? Like they have a reasonable balance of face, and they're just a little bit bigger than these ones. So,
when we say the biggest that it could be, Christina, the thing is you could zoom in more, right? Like you could have your face fill up more of the space that picture is. I think is what we mean. I mean, obviously, change the size of the avatar. That's set by YouTube. But if you had if you zoomed in more, so that your face filled up more of the frame, that's what I think you mean.
And you can do that with the avatar as well a little bit. Like you can obviously crop it in a bit. Yourself, and so you can, because if you upload a square photo to YouTube, it'll know what to do with it.
I saw Willie's note. Yeah, it does have something to do with the whites of your eyes. This is actually a fun fact from my area. But this is why domestic animals like dogs and horses, you can see the whites of their eyes if they move their eyes. It's because the whites of your eyes tell a person where you're looking, and so it tells you a lot about their emotion. So that's what we're connecting with, is like the direction of someone's eyes, or like how big their eyes are can also show emotions. So yeah, I definitely agree that like having bigger faces in the thumbnails is nice. Unpopular opinion, maybe. I don't especially like photos of the host as the avatar or like as the logo. I guess like a lot of us have logos that are, it's an image, something you put on a business card or a sticker or, other branding places. And I don't know. I don't especially like headshots as the avatar, but I know that some people do.
I'm also the same. I prefer it not to be. What actually I advise people is have something that can be drawn easily by a fan to make fan art.
That's interesting. I never really thought about that, but I'm also kind of in the camp of not really being much of a fan of like just pure face logos. Of course, if you want to do that, I'm not going to stop you. But personally, I think, if you're going to do that, then maybe do like something like what Dr. Wordperson did or what Medlife Crisis does, and have your face in some kind of specific situation. Like, Medlife Crisis is his logo is just, his face, but, looking down into the camera with a surgical mask on. So that also tells you something about the channel.
That's a great compromise. Yeah.
I was just thinking that the avatar, if you wanted to get away from the face, I am guilty of having my face with an other object and it's way too tiny. So I'm not the best person for this, but the little splash at the top, that sound thing, if that kind of came down, and then if you wanted to do like WP or something, I don't know. It's just brainstorming. No bad ideas in brainstorming.
That's right. It's all yes. We're next going to move on to just a quick look at what are the viewers especially interested in on Christina's channel, and what are they reacting less to? I have to say, yes.
I'm sorry, just because if we've left the homepage, I didn't get to say the other thing I'd say on the homepage is pin some lists to it. All you have right now is on there is uploads. You've got playlists, but they aren't pinned on the homepage. If I go to the homepage, I want to scroll down and see what kinds of things do you do videos on? So have your playlist there, maybe an intro. A lot of people do, here's a great introduction to the channel and 3 or 4 things. And then, your playlist of subjects so people can immediately see what kinds of things. Yeah. So I don't know if the word pin is the right one. I just know that you can go in and edit your home screen and put playlist there. And that is always a good idea. It just also makes it look like it's a more, polished home screen.
Yeah, more established. Like one thing people really like to do is popular uploads. And, sometimes it's the ones that are really popular, and then sometimes it's also just your favorites.
The ones you want them
you
to actually watch.
Yes. And it's totally up to you. Like, you can look at other people's channels and get ideas, but remember, this is your channel. So, set it up however you'd like. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say along with that. I know a lot of people have made the suggestion of make a playlist of videos that are sort of like the where to start if you're new to the channel playlist that a lot of people wind up putting at the top. So it's not even the things that have been most popular with your audience, but like the things that you think would help reel someone in and get them to be a subscriber and a regular viewer.
Yeah, really good point.
And tell them that this is your the channel that they like and what's on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like a little orientation. That's, fantastic idea. Anything else anyone would like to discuss about the landing page for Dr. WordPerson before we move on? Then let's switch topics briefly and talk about what are people really reacting well to on the channel. And I will say that there's not a lot of variation. So there's really consistent amount of views for the most part. That's my impression from looking at the channel. These that I've listed here are the top performing in terms of views, but they just don't seem that different from the other videos on the channel. And so my first impression is maybe this has something to do with the easier to understand titles, that I immediately know what you're talking about when you say Sanskrit challenging but awesome, or why I love learning dead languages. The one video, I actually only found one video that was lower performing really on your channel in terms of views, and that was this one. And my guess is that fewer people would be recognizing this title or searching for this title. But again, I want to emphasize this is a really superficial glance at your channel. When you want to decide about this, you really want to dig into your stats. And so even though this video has fewer views, it might have really long watch time, depending on, are you like cornering the market on this topic? So Christina, maybe you could let us know, you've had a look at your stats. Which of these videos are actually doing really well in terms of not just views, but watch time? Because that's something you really want to look at. Okay, let me just check the chat here. Okay, Christina says, world's oldest language is so popular because it keeps getting brigaded by Indian nationalists and religious fundies. Oh, okay, I see. So blessing in disguise, I guess. Willie mentions that the short but descriptive titles, those work really well. And Christina mentions the others got the views they did because they got picked up and promoted by someone with a larger following. That's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. And Even and Mark agree that they know the feeling of these controversial videos. If you are really concerned with views, Christina mentioned that in her survey, that views were really her top concern. Here are some of the things that you can pay attention to, especially when you don't have a lot of data to work with yet. When you're looking at the views across your channel, they seem fairly similar. You might want to look at the click-through rate for your channel, like the click-through rate in general, and then also on individual videos, and see, okay, do some of those do better than others? Do some of those have a better click-through rate than others? And then think about, where is the traffic coming from? Are some of these views actually not really high quality views? Say the ones that were shared by the people who were sort of aggressive and they wanted to take you down or something. Maybe they'll only watch 30 seconds and then that wouldn't be a really high quality view compared with something that came from YouTube search, for instance. Personally, and I'd like to check in with everyone else, we've found that search traffic to be really reliable in terms of being high quality views, because it's a sign that people are actually really looking for that topic. And if your video satisfies that search, that means you're going to get really good watch time. How about everyone else? When you look at where your views are coming from, have you been able to isolate better quality views from others?
Yeah, I mean, I also have a very small channel, but yeah, I think my highest quality views, and that includes like people actually leaving comments, so they're interacting with the content, have definitely been titles that have more, or like videos that have titles that are more searchable. Like my how to start bird watching video blows every single other video I've ever made out of the water, because it's a thing that people search for and they watch the whole video and then they leave a comment. So yeah, I definitely think that is a great way to get good views.
Okay, Kiki mentions that her high quality views are subscribers. And so that's another place to look. You can, in your stats, you can do a comparison, or you can look at them one at a time. What's your watch time from subscribers? What's your watch time from those that are not subscribed, and see if there's a difference there. So not only should you think about, well, how do I go after search traffic? Like if you happen to have really good view duration from your subscribers, it tells you a little bit about, well, what sort of content should I continue to make? My subscribers are interested in this type of content. So what I really want is lots of watch time, maybe I make more of that kind of content. Okay, Mark agrees our really searchable videos do well, and they keep getting views long after they first came out. And that's the really wonderful thing about our being edutubers, is that a lot of us make evergreen content that will keep getting views year after year. And so definitely that's true for linguistics. People are going to be interested in these subjects for ages and ages, maybe forever, right? Okay, let me see. Anything else in the chat?
Yeah. Christina says that her videos don't generally get picked up by searches at all and don't show up on the first page of YouTube results. I mean, that's an interesting thing to think about. There's only so much you can do to make things searchable. I wonder if you could, we don't do this very often. We're horrible at titles. So that'll be the other part of the discussion. But when you're coming up with a topic, I know that lots of people do the Google autocomplete sort of things. Is there a way to phrase whatever you're going to talk about in a way that is more likely to come up in those searches? So the Google autocomplete being just like type a couple of words in and see, you say you're doing that. And I mean, these are obvious ideas, but I feel like, because looking at your videos, it looks like they should be searchable. So I don't know whether it's that they are on topics that there's so many other videos or, results on that you're just coming up lower because you don't have a lot of views, or if there's some element. And I do feel like that maybe we do a lot in the chat in Slack. There's a lot of people will run videos by, and I would suggest using the very clever brains of other people in Slack who are better at titles than I am on that. Like the next time, I know that you might be in a hiatus right now, but next time you're making a video, run some ideas by people in the Slack in the critiques and advice, because some people have some very good ideas about how to just tweak titles so that they come up a bit better. Because I feel like these videos should be coming up in searches. So I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, let's definitely talk more about how to make your titles searchable in the main discussion. In the chat, there's some very nice things going on. So Christina mentioned that she actually polled her subscribers. That's a fantastic idea, because if you are getting really engaged subscribers, just make sure to keep them happy, and as long as they don't want you to do something completely crazy. But sometimes that can help narrow down out of the huge field of videos you could be making. Well, let's just make this be the next one, something my subscribers are really interested in. And so the nice thing is, Christina got some very clear results from her subscribers. Sometimes that's as muddy as everything else, but yeah. And Christina says she does also do the Google autocomplete thing, looking for topics, so that's great. Now here's a very nice thing. Mark suggests you should do a collab. And that's awesome. And Cheryl can tell you a lot about successful collabs as well. So let's keep that in mind. Another way to get views would be to do a collaboration and to expose yourself to another set of viewers. There's one more topic that Christina mentioned that she would like to cover, and that was she considers promotion of her videos a weakness. And I thought maybe we could take a minute and share, what do we do to promote our videos? I know we all have differing levels of success about cross-promotion and social media and that kind of thing. But what have all of us done to try to promote our videos?
So this year, hello everyone. This year I decided to do regular videos every single Wednesday. And so I put up a banner saying new video each Wednesday. And then I post to social media, every single social media channel I have each Wednesday, announcing there's a new video. Although so far, that has not really done much to boost views of my videos. They're all getting about 100 views within the first 24 hours. but that could be peculiar to me having marked my channel as for kids. That could be driving things down.
True, but that I think that's such a good practice. We've been trying to achieve that for I don't know, the last 3 years or something. It's been really, really challenging for us to get a regular schedule.
It's hard. It's hard. I don't think I would have been able to do it if I hadn't had the knowledge that I might be losing notifications hanging over my head.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah.
And filming, the videos we're releasing each Wednesday, they're smaller and they're sort of placeholder content. Mm-hmm. So that then when we make the content that takes more time that we really care about, people will know when to expect it. We've filmed them in a batch. So we'll do, 5 videos, edit them all at once, and then schedule them in advance so that then we're not trying to, to keep up as the weeks go by.
Right. On a week by week basis. That's awesome. Yeah. And I know a lot of us have been experimenting with that kind of batch shooting. Christina, I don't know if that would be a possibility for you, but that's, setting up a regular release schedule, even if it doesn't have to be every week, even if it's one a month, just so everyone knows, January 1st, where's that video? That they have this idea. That's, a great idea. Now, Christina mentions that she posts her videos to Twitter and Facebook. Facebook seems to work, but all the Twitter followers came from the YouTube channel. So it is interesting. Sometimes it's one social media platform is not there to bring more people, but just to sort of solidify your relationship with those followers.
I'll just be real quick. I do remember several years ago, CGB Ray did a Q&A, and one of the questions was how do you get views on YouTube? And he talked about how people always talk about collabs and schedules, and especially social media followers. But the thing he said about social media followers is that basically Twitter followers don't get you views. Views get you Twitter followers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. It does make you kind of wonder, why are we all doing Twitter? I don't think of it as trying to get subscribers or anything like that. It's more there's a bunch of scientists I follow and they're really
for me it's more routine at this point.
Yeah, there's artists and I just like to talk to people on Twitter. It's more fellow creators. Christina says she doesn't really use Twitter for anything else at all. You don't know what to post there that's too personal or too inflammatory or too vapid. So true. That's social media.
Yeah, well, no, that's all you have to do. All inflammatory, vapid, and personal. That's what Twitter is. Come on. No, I was just going to say, though, I think that point about it's hard to get views from until you get up to a certain size. CGB Gray may say he doesn't get views from Twitter, but given his following now, given how bad notifications are on YouTube, some people are going to see his videos on Twitter first before they see them from YouTube. And so they may be viewers he already sees, but the actual views on individual videos I think that's maybe one place that Twitter can be useful, especially if you don't get good, notification or search things, is your actual fans can use it. But I would say, and, if you're not comfortable on Twitter, then there's no point in exploring it because whatever social media, if it doesn't fit with you. But if you do want to use Twitter at all, there is a really big linguistics community on Twitter. And while that they won't necessarily immediately promote your stuff or help out, the best advice, and it's hard, and it's not necessarily what you feel like doing, so take it or leave it. But the best advice really is to focus on whatever social media you use and focus it on building yourself into that community, not getting them to see your videos, but making yourself an interesting part of that community. And the biggest piece is responding to other people at the beginning. You don't get followers by posting interesting things because nobody sees the interesting things because they're not your followers. So you have to start by responding to other people, by getting in on conversations and not immediately telling them about what you do, but just getting into conversations, not trying to follow up on it, following interesting people and responding to what they say, and then waiting for them to come to you. And it's it's sort of a waiting game, and it may or may not pay off. But linguistics Twitter definitely is a very interesting and vibrant place. And if you can get yourself into that conversation, you might find Twitter worthwhile just for that. And then any views that you get on Like, I think that's really the way to think of Twitter is be there as just what you were saying, Kim, be there for the community. And then also it's then another string to your bow in terms of getting your videos out there.
Yeah.
Which
also
not efficient, but you know.
Also, another thing you can do once you do have an active Twitter is you can post content there that's just for Twitter. So not your videos, but things about linguistics so that people will want to come to your Twitter just for its own sake. So I've tried, posting etymologies on Twitter, and they tend to, get a little more interest than just posting videos.
Right. And those work so well. And I think it's especially because, it's tailored for that platform. It's something that you couldn't use it to make a whole video, but it's just like this interesting little nugget. And it's like, oh, following this person really has value to me because I learned something every time something pops up. So if that feels right for you, Christina, I would suggest doing that. But, I even mentioned just do it if it feels right for you. I think there's so many things out there. A lot of us feel obligated to participate in these social media platforms, but if your heart isn't in it or you don't find it interesting or personally valuable, then I really think it's a waste of your time just because there's so many other things you could be doing. Another idea coming from M from DSM, Wannabe Linguist, she has found a lot of success on Facebook with their linguistics meme page. So that's another way to just sort of have fun, but it's a totally different type of content, just a fun little nugget of content that you could post there, for instance. Yeah, Avon is going to send you along a list of interesting linguists to follow. That's fantastic.
Can I just say one little tiny thing just because it's useful? I think M would prefer they or he.
They or he. Oh, yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me.
No problem.
Anyone else to give any suggestions about forms of promotion or other things that you found especially successful? Dr. Kiki's wondering, has anyone found success on Instagram?
I think some people have been successful on Instagram. I don't put as much attention into my Instagram as I do in my Twitter. So that has not been my thing, but I know some people. I think Trina would be a great example. Ms. Beautyfile. Her Instagram has always got new stuff on it. So I think that the social media stuff is really time and energy intensive. I have an Instagram and a Facebook and a Twitter, but my Twitter gets updated much more regularly than either of the other two. So I think unless you have a dedicated social media manager like so many companies do now, it would be very difficult for you to put energy and content into all of them, especially if you're making dedicated content, which I think is a great idea. But it takes even more time, right? Also, I wanted to make a note about the question of how much of your personal self, or I think it was inflammatory or vapid content was the way it was phrased. I've been thinking a lot about this since I started making videos and being on Twitter from the science communication perspective, but I think this is probably pretty true regardless of what kind of education you're doing. The people are there watching you or interacting with your content because they want to be there for you, right? Your style, your way of doing things. They're interested in you. They're forming a connection. We can talk a lot about parasocial relationships and what that means. So I do share a lot about my personal life. I share a lot of photos. I talk a lot about my journey through graduate school because I'm currently experiencing it and things. Those are things people want to know. Do I share everything? Absolutely not. So I think it's a lot of time and effort, but I think you have to curate what you're going to share, but you probably should be sharing at least some personal details, because if you are just, the wah Peanuts teacher without a personality or a backstory, your audience isn't going to form a connection and they won't stay.
I've been putting my number one priority has been Instagram this year. And so I'm posting every single day, and I've been doing dedicated outreach of 15-ish to 20 minutes a day of finding people who I think fit the profile of my ideal audience member. So mostly homeschool families, engaged parents, and science enthusiasts. And then commenting and leaving specific comments on their pages to engage, and then trying to discover hashtags that community is using. I have to say, it's a lot of work. And I'm going to give it another 3 or 4 months before deciding whether it's worth all the time. And I definitely don't feel like I can do this with all 3 of the main social media platforms. So I've made a conscious choice that Instagram gets first priority, and then the others kind of get my leftover energy if I have any.
That sounds like you've really picked a smart strategy, Jenny, and you're really, really focusing in. I'm so impressed. It's just oh my God. Now, do you organize yourself in some way? Like, do you keep like a spreadsheet of things you've tried and it worked? And
I do. So the Instagram outreach, because I really want to quantify it so I can decide if it's, and the going and leaving comments, that's actually most of the time it's not me. It's one of my science moms that I'm paying. And she'll come over to my house. I'll give her my phone. She has a spreadsheet and she knows like certain demographics. She's just fine I've watched enough of the comments that she gives that she's fine to just comment. And then others, she's got to show me first before she comments. And she has a list of all the hashtags, how many minutes were spent doing the outreach, and then our follower count. We started out with about 100. We're up to about 532 now. But more importantly to me is like how many of those followers are actually engaging. And I do feel like, it's slow and it's a lot of work, but I do feel like we're getting to the point now where we have a handful of people who will comment each time. And that's what I really care about. I want engaged followers who will hopefully, support.
That is so cool. To me, that's a real success story. That makes me just thrilled to hear that for you. That's awesome. And that's so interesting that you're working with someone who like you have achieved kind of like a mind meld with, like you trust her to speak for your channel and for your brand and that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that's a really important thing if you think about bringing someone on as help. I don't know if anyone else has tried this for social media, if anyone else is like a help person to take on some of this burden.
I found that that my etymologies do well on Instagram, but even better, surprisingly, on Tumblr. So there's a very active linguistics community on Tumblr. Thing you can do to make it easier to sort of cover and if then that, then if you set up an if then that, it can auto post to all your social medias. So if you have some content that you want to regularly post, you can save a lot of time by having it do that.
Really good point. Yeah, if you can work with some kind of a scheduler. Yeah. Anything else we'd like to leave Christina with? Any last words of WCE wisdom?
Yeah, I would like to add something. Can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, you sound great.
Sure.
Excellent audio quality.
I'm glad to hear that. Thanks. I think my most powerful resource has been Reddit, so I'm really curious to hear if you tried that, and also in terms of most quality views as well. Reddit has been the best.
Oh, that's really good to hear. So Christina mentions she has tried Reddit. Very little success. We actually don't ever post our things to Reddit just because we've seen that Reddit is tricky. You know, people sort of sniff out commercial interests very quickly and reject it wholeheartedly. I'm kind of a lurker on Reddit. Like I'll read posts and, I find things that are funny and some that are really scary. But I never post anything about our channel there just because I think it's going to backfire. So I am really curious to hear about how people make that work for them. That they can actually promote their channel without being rejected by Redditors.
Yeah, you're definitely right about that because self-promotion is a big, big no-no. Right. So I think if you post a link in a relevant subreddit and people don't know you too well, then I don't think it's a good tactic to keep up with. But to start your YouTube channel, I think it's necessary, sadly.
Okay, Mark mentions he did have a tiny bit of success from Reddit early on, but they stopped posting there. Oh, Willie mentions he's seen people use pseudonyms on Reddit. That's very interesting. Yeah. Dr. Kiki says, I would love to use Reddit, but it's just one more place. Yeah, like one more thing. Also, there's a This Week in Science subreddit, and they don't like us. No, oh no. Even though This Week in Science has been around longer. Oh, that's so frustrating. I can't believe it. Jenny mentions she's been terrified to try promotion on Reddit. Yeah, I think it remains something to investigate, something to think about. And like all the other social media platforms, you really do have to be involved as a regular user before people are interested in what you have to say. That's my impression. Anything else we'd like to send Christina off with? Anything else about running her channel, being an EduTuber? Any last words of wisdom? Jenny Science Mom says, keep up the good work. Dr. Kiki says, keep going. I think that's the big thing, right? Don't give up. Never surrender. And Christina says, thank you, everyone. We're all here for each other. So yeah, thank you for being so brave and letting us see your channel and talk about it. Now we're going to move on to something that we all have to deal with, video title best practices. And I will say just off the bat, there's no hard and fast rule. So today, let's share some of the strategies that we found helpful, and with the understanding that none of this is going to be 100%, right? Some things will work, and some things, you look at a video and it's like, I did all the right things, and people still aren't seeing it. That just happens, right? The first thing I want to say is I want to tell you the company line, and that is there is a limitation on the title length, and that limitation is 100 characters, but only 70 of those characters are displayed in almost all of the search results. YouTube suggests going even shorter. They suggest 60 as a maximum. Okay, so short in general. Yes, I love the Jacqueline quote. This is a quote that I heard from Jacqueline at VidCon when I first met her, talking about how do you design your thumbnails and your titles? How do you go about it? And Jacqueline's rule of thumb was that the thumbnail was for people, that it needs to be eye-catching, but the title, even though, we do read the title is important for the search engine, the YouTube search engine. So think about making that title acceptable to robots. I mean, it needs to make sense for people too. And we hear about going too far for robots. People call it keyword stuffing. And then you recognize it when you see a title like that. It's just keyword after keyword, and it's not appealing at all. So we have to reach some kind of happy medium, right? We need a title that's interesting to people, but also does well on SEO. And so here are some other just best practices that I've come up with, or I've heard from other people, and it does seem to work with us. And that is, you need to have keywords in the title, the keywords that people will be searching for on this topic. And they work a little bit better if you start the title with that keyword, if it's the first or second word. The other thing to keep in mind is if you're making a topic about this keyword, check your script to make sure that keyword is actually said in the video. I don't know why it took me like several years to hit on this idea, but sometimes I would make a video about a specific technical topic and I wouldn't actually use that video title in my video anywhere. It was sort of like, I'm talking about it, I'm talking close to it, but I never actually say that word. And so this is another thing. Just make sure it's all consistent. What you're talking about in the video actually appears in the title, and it's a keyword that people are searching for. And so those are my, part one little bits of wisdom that's what I base my titles on. And I'd love to hear from the rest of you. Are there any things that you really rely on when you're picking your titles? Mark asks, does the number of times the keyword in the script make a difference? That I haven't noticed. I mean, I do think they want to believe the programming for the search engine wants to believe that, yes, the video really is about that subject, but I don't know that you have to really belabor it and hit it multiple times. I think it's actually a little more clever than that. Okay, anyone else? What are your best tips for working on your titles?
I think the biggest thing I've learned was a mistake I made with my previous channel. I really like puns and playing with words. So yeah, I made a lot of punny titles or clever titles, or I noticed one with Dr. Word Person before that we were mentioning was the something is better than Ocean's 11. And even though we think those are clever and really funny, they don't read well for someone who's got lots of choices on YouTube. So it's kind of unfortunate, but yeah, if it's more quote unquote boring or straightforward to the point title seems to work better. And yeah, I agree with Mark. Questions are better too.
Yeah, great point. Great point. I know it's sad because sometimes it's the perfect title, that's the funniest title ever, but no one's going to search for that. And it is kind of an in-joke. It's satisfying to you, but it's going to sink your video if you use it.
My video titles are not great, but I've been consulting for Complexly. And so for Crash Course, we've been talking about the titles. And I thought that, they have some fun stuff on there on the old chemistry. And so I was trying to come up with fun titles and they're like, Kristen, just stop this. We've decided that the fun titles, they're just no good. Let's not get weird with it. Only if it's really clever, go with the fun title, say what it is exactly as explicitly as you can. So that was advice I got from the bigger people.
That's really good to hear. Yeah. Let me see. Oh, so Christina says she's really happy that the complicated title video, it has a terrible title because it's a terrible video. No, I don't believe that. I really don't believe that. But okay, yes, I totally agree with what everyone is saying, that it's sort of like you're writing the address on a letter. Like, you want to make sure it gets there. You know, like, I used to send these letters that were all sort of funny and goofy and they had cartoons on the envelope, but I still made the address completely legible so it would actually reach its destination. So maybe think of it that way. Mark mentioned that questions in the title work really well, and that's another sort of the wisdom of the crowd thing that I've heard of, and that is these sorts of questions of who, what, why, when, where, who, you know, why, or where, which. That's the one. Those tend to work very well. We do that a lot on our channel, especially for our study tip series. Like, how do you do this? Here are some others that people mention: using numbers in your title. And I find that sometimes backfires. Like, it looks like a boring listicle, but maybe people really do want to know the 3 things that caused this war, or, you know, something like that. And I wonder if any of you have used these ideas to good effect. Now, this isn't necessarily what I've always used, but these are sort of like the wisdom that's out there, what people commonly tell each other. So I'd love to hear what you think about these types of video ideas. So has anyone tried these type of how to or top 10 something? Kristen mentions my top 10 tips video is one of my most successful. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Okay, so maybe that's what we need to do. Top 10 linguistic tips. But Jenny mentions my only top 10 didn't get much traction. Top 10 science memes. See, that sounds really fun. I don't know. You know, one rumor that I heard recently was that people don't respond so well to a top 10 anymore, and even to even numbers. For some reason, there's some psychological thing, like it feels finished as opposed to an odd number like top 5 or top 7 or top 9. For some reason, those are getting more clicks. You know, I hesitate to react to that type of thing because I feel like we're just chasing the stock market, kind of. Like, by the time you see that effect, it's already over. But it's something else you could try. You know, should we try odd numbers? Top 10 points of Sanskrit grammar that made me cry. That's excellent, Christina. Yes. Willie says, now I don't know what to think. Yeah, I agree. I don't have any idea. Dr. Kiki says, my videos are longer and cover many different science news stories, so I tend to stick with episode numbers and have lately been adding a topical question, but it doesn't seem to have made a difference. I will say, Kiki, that I've heard that when you do episode numbers, if you put it at the front of your title, it's sort of like wasted space, but if you leave it till the very end, that can be helpful, especially if people are looking for, wanting to see all the episodes. So that's something to keep in mind. And yeah, Cheryl mentions there is this weird psychology behind odd numbers, and this is why prices are always $14.99. Yeah, it totally works on me, like for gas. Anything else? Any other ideas we should be playing with our titles, do you think?
I've also been thinking about jargon, because we sort of touched on this before, but like making sure that you're saying what you're talking about. But like a lot of us might be tempted to say what we're talking about again, like, oh, I only have so many words or so many characters to get this across, and so use like a more complicated word. But like we definitely have to think about putting in like the simple words that say what the video is about, like, again, something that somebody would search for.
Oh, that's such a good point. Yeah. Miriam has a great idea of, another one of these like sort of wisdom of the crowd ideas. X explained in X minutes is pretty solid. And that's a great template to go for. Yeah. Especially if you're just much better at explaining this thing. Like, you can explain it succinctly, and the other videos out there are 30 minutes. That can be a really good selling point. Christina mentions that she tends to search her topic in YouTube and make sure the video title isn't the same as anyone else's on the same topic. And I think, yeah, that probably makes sense. Unless there's only one way to say it. I don't know. Maybe. Dr. Kiki says, my titles always work better if they include the word sex or God, but they don't attract the kind of an audience I like. So yes, what are you going to do? I don't know. Sex in the Proto-Indo-European perfect tense. That is awesome. See, I would click on that. It's terrible. I want to know. Oh, so that actually brings up one last thing I wanted to share, was this idea of teasing the title. There was one thumbnail, Christina, that I saw on your channel, and I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact title of the video, but it was something like these small fossils, like this little elephant fossil, and then you go on to explain. And it might work better if you teased it because the thumbnail was so appealing. And maybe if you were like, which fossil did this and this? And then you have to watch the video to find out. So you don't sort of give up all of the surprise right in the title. Another thing to think about is for some of the videos that you think are a great video and it's just underperforming, you can always change the title, right? And you could try a new title, try a simpler title, do a little bit more SEO or search engine optimization research, and maybe try a new title and let it run 2 months and see if it behaves any differently. Let's see, anything else from the chat? Oh, Jenny mentions, I found explained to be a good word to have in titles. That's a great one, Jenny. Thank you. Explained. That's right. Okay. All right, everyone. We are coming up on an hour. So is there anything else you'd like to talk about titles before we sign off from this Hangout? Any other WCE just chatty things you'd like to have you'd like us to talk about?
Well, I don't know how many of them are here today, but welcome to the new members. We just got a whole new group like yesterday or today, so that's very exciting.
Awesome.
And anybody who wants to keep talking about title suggestions, that is apparently the main point of the critiques and advice channel on the Slack, so please use that.
Yes.
Yeah, and thumbnails. I was just going to say that
and
again. Another
yeah.
plug for doing thumbnails, and if, the only thing about thumbnails is once you've posted and got your answers on your polls, delete the files because we run out of file space because we have a free account on Slack.
Really good point. Yeah.
It's like, and just go there. Also, even if you don't have anything to ask, go and vote on other people's titles because it's a great way of involving yourself with the community and gives you ideas because you watch and you see what everybody else likes. And it's actually a really good way to sort of learn that whatever you're in, I've learned that my intuitions are always wrong. So that's a good thing.
I mean, yeah, it's basically like a test run with real audiences. I mean, we're a people too, so.
Yeah, totally. Like we are the audience for a lot of edutubing videos like that. These are the people I watch. And so, please me. No, I'm just like, but really, no, I agree so much that I've learned so much in the discussion. Like I rarely post a thumbnail just because I honestly don't have multiple ideas for thumbnails. Like I have one idea and that's it. I guess I'm out of ideas. But I love seeing different people, people come up with like 4 different thumbnails. Like, that's fantastic. This one's great. That one's great. So I love reading that channel.
Yeah. And of course, obviously, you don't need to, for everyone who's wondering, you obviously don't need to post like multiple thumbnails because sometimes I'm just like, okay, I got a thumbnail here. I think it could work, but I think it could get some improvements. Splat, hey, WC, what do you think I should do with this?
That's such a good point, Willie. Yeah, absolutely. Maybe that's what I should do. Like, I'm out of ideas. Please, somebody, what else could I put in here? I run into that problem where the thing I'm talking about is so abstract, and it's like there is no good visual. There just isn't. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need to actually hire a thumbnail artist because it's so not my thing. It takes me so long to do something on Photoshop. So, yeah, we'll see. Anything else anyone would like to say before we sign off? We're right at the hour. It was really great talking to everyone. And
thanks, everyone.
There will be another Hangout next month. Remember, first Friday of the month. Okay. Bye, everybody.